Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the Morning Five, Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning, as we are going to be in the book of Ephesians again, Ephesians chapter 5. Grab your Bible, open up your app. David, good to see you today. Why don't you take it away?
We're in Ephesians chapter 5. We're going to begin in verse 22, where Paul begins to speak about Christ and the church and husbands and wives. So let's pick up in verse 22. Wives, subject yourself to your own husbands as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ also is the head of the church, he himself being the Savior of the body. But as the church is subject to Christ, so also wives ought to be to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her, so that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, that he might present to himself the church in all her glory, having no spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she would be holy and blameless. So husbands also ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his own wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ also does the church, because we are parts of his body. For this reason a man shall leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This mystery is great, but I'm speaking with reference to Christ and the church. Nevertheless, as for you, individually, each husband is to love his own wife the same as himself, and the wife must see to it that she respects her husband. Mark, what do you got?
In the book of Genesis, God created male and female, and he created the marriage. In Genesis chapter 3, all of that went off the rails. When mankind sinned, there was a pronouncement made by God to Eve, but it applied to Adam as well. In verse 16, to the woman he said, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Notice, your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. I think growing up sometimes, preachers reference this as this is why the man is the head of the family, and this shows this order that God created. That's not what's happening in Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3, there's nothing good about what's proclaimed here. The desire that the woman has for a husband is for his position and for his power. And he rules over her, and God is saying what will happen is he's going to rule over you, but it's going to be a harsh rule. So the history of mankind is, in the male and female relationship, men have abused women physically, sexually. They've manipulated women, and women have manipulated men to gain power. You think about Samson and Delilah. That whole thing where she's saying, I want to tell me where your strength is. She's manipulating him for his power. He's manipulating her for sex. All right? That's not what God intended. What God always intended is really found beautifully in this text, where husbands and wives are in this coexisting relationship with one another, where each is thinking about the other one, and each is taking care of the other one. The wife is submitting to her husband because he is the head of the family. He is leading her. But what type of leadership does the husband have? It's not the type of leadership that's after sex. It's not the type of leadership that's after control of the woman. It is a leadership that follows the example of Jesus. It's a loving leadership. He is deeply aware of how much he loves her. In fact, he's told, you need to make sure you love her. She respects him. He loves her. He is thinking about her. Every decision he makes is with her in mind. In a lot of ways, he submits to her as he seeks to guide her. She's not a wallflower in this relationship. He values her. He values her opinion. Sometimes he may submit to her decision because it's what will bring her happiness, though he leads. So this really is the way God always wanted relationships to be. And then he says at the very end, by the way, I'm really talking about Christ and the church.
Yeah. I think about this text, and as Mark said, it's a beautiful text. It's a challenging text. But what I think about is what he had said earlier in Ephesians chapter 3, where he talked about the manifold or multifaceted wisdom of God. If that's seen anywhere, it's seen in this relationship that God created. You think about everything that God intended with the marriage relationship. He gave Adam Eve because Adam needed Eve. And so God saw his need and blessed him with a wife, a helper that was suitable to him. It was the means by which God's image would be multiplied and spread over the face of the earth. And here we're even told that it's a living drama of what it means to look like of Christ in the church. that's amazing to me that God in his wisdom can take this one relationship and bless man, but at the same time teach man. That's just the wisdom of God. He can take something like this and it just adds value upon value to it, and we just need to stand amazed at it.
Yeah, we do. And just recognize how helpful this is. Men, if you're leading the way you're supposed to lead, it makes it easier for a woman to submit to the guidance of her husband. Let me just throw one thing in real quickly. Give me 1 minute. I performed a wedding ceremony one time. I was asked to perform a wedding ceremony from a couple, and the wife was pretty liberal in her thinking, and I really didn't want to do it. So I was trying to find a way out. So I said, well, I'm going to read this text if I do it, and you're going to have to submit to your husband. And I sort of thought that would make him say, no, we don't want you to do it. But I went through and explained this text the way it's written, not the way she had heard it. And by the time I got finished, she goes, oh, that's fine. If you want to read that, I think that sounds great. And so what that impressed upon me was when people actually hear what the Bible teaches about the husband-wife relationship, most people understand that there's great, as you put, beauty in it. Okay.
Well, thank you for joining us today as we looked at the end of chapter 5. Join us tomorrow. We'll pick up in chapter 6. Hope you have a great day. If you have thoughts, comments, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Have a great day, and God bless.